Setting limits. When you set limits, you're offering someone choices. That's very important to foster autonomy. All humans should have choices. It's part of our rights, as well as stating the consequences of those choices. Yeah, you can do this, but this may happen. Limits are better perceived when the positive choice and consequence are stated first. So for instance, let's see, first you can go to gym class. If you participate in gym class, then we'll go to recess. Instead of saying, if we don't go to gym class, we're not going to go to recess. You always want to put the first one first. The positive one first. Limits will be most effective when they are simple and clear, just like all of our directions. Reasonable means we're not going to say, if you do 500 jumping jacks, then you can have this cookie. That's not reasonable. And enforceable. We're never going to deliver a consequence that we can't enforce. We're never going to say, if you don't do this,
you can't go home.
Then you can't go home. Or if you do this, then you can't go on family vacation next week. We can't enforce that. It may sound good, but if it's not enforceable and they don't do it and we can't enforce it, they're going to learn, hey, you're full of baloney. I'm going to get away with what I want.
You want to keep it simple in the moment. So if it's if it means the first 5 minutes of gym because you're 5 minutes away from gym, you need to complete this task or you're going to be late for gym. So you want to keep it as in the moment as possible.
Choices, again, very important. The more choices a child is given, the more independent and the more in control they feel. Again, we're always going to have the upper hand because we're always giving those forced choices, but they'll feel a sense of autonomy in preventing problem behavior and increasing engagement. So again, everything we do, there's research behind it, including choice-making opportunities. Providing choice is feasible and an easy intervention to implement. You don't really need any materials for it. You don't need formal training on it. Do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Simple. It's effective for students in general or special education. A lot of what we're talking about today goes for typically developing peers as well. Choice-making opportunities is huge for kids. They love when they have a little bit of control. And it doesn't require significant modification to existing instruction. It's not going to take a huge part out of the instructor or the teacher's lesson if you just offer them a choice. It's very simple, very quick, and effective. It teaches students to become self-determined individuals. I made this choice. I am getting this because I did this and I chose to receive this. It enables them to better control their environment. It can lead to more predictable student-teacher interactions because they know that the teacher is going to be asking them for a choice and they are going to have a positive experience with them instead of the teacher always being the bad guy. It allows opportunity for more frequent positive attention and feedback from teachers. It's going to be a positive interaction when you're providing choice-making opportunities. And it may foster improvements in student-teacher relationships. Thanks. So some strategies for offering choice. The type of task or activity. Do you want to do science first or do you want to do math first? Order or sequence of tasks. Do you want to do the reading first or do you want to do the comprehension first? Kinds of materials. Do you want to use the long pencil or the short pencil? That one I found works a lot. With whom to work. Do you want to work with Miss Sarah or do you want to work with Mr. George? That's huge for a lot of people. Place to work. Do you want to work at the kiddie table or do you want to work in your cubby? That's also a big one that I use. And a choice of how to use the time. For a choice of how to use the time, that's not one that I... Yeah.
I was going to add, you want to be very careful, especially with whom to work with as a choice, because you don't want one person to become preferred and that student only work, like let's say with Mr. George. So if one day Mr. George and Miss Sarah are an option, then Miss Sarah and someone else are an option the next day. Because you definitely don't want, especially with people, you don't want a child to become completely dependent upon working with one individual.
Or we can do, 2 minutes with me, 2 minutes with Mr. George, or vice versa.